Good morning, all you beautiful girls out there, and really all good people. I now enforced to even tell it directly, more bluntly, the true facts, tell it like it is, and hope I can complete the video, because I get to about 10 minutes and really into the swing of telling the truth to try to complete it. It stops and say, well, an error occurred. So I now, I say spontaneous and rehearsed without a prepared speech or even a prepared outline, that I may have a couple of surprises. And the first is, especially for you beautiful girls, maybe realize it's not the size of the dog in a fight, it might be the size of the fight in a dog. Understand? I think you should look for a man that, especially the same religion or based on religion, you take the vows before God that you stay married for the children. Children are more important than you parents. It's before the children come first, and usually the mothers do. But the old man, I'd say most of the time in a divorce, it's the man's fault. You have to realize, girls, that there are more girls in the U.S. than men. And then they have all of these where you can marry some girl from here, there, everywhere, and then you can have power over them because, boy, look, they got out of there in the U.S., and you can sort of have power over them. So it's, well, in Brazil, I think it's 3-to-1. That's why the girls wear such skimpy the bikinis to get attraction from men. And in Brazil, every married man has a girlfriend. That's the way it is. You don't talk about it, but that's the way it is. And the priest, if it wasn't that the priest take in some of these girls, they would die in the street. So he takes them in, and what they do on his free time, I don't think it's my business. You understand? I don't go to church because of the priest. I go to church because it's my obligation by the command of Christ. You see, in other countries, they say it's Dios Day, God's Day. Dominigo, in guttural English, they say Sunday. What, the sun's shining? And that's the day of obligation. You see? So, and Dios Day is the first day of the week, correct? Not the Sunday of the weekend, where you can run to Las Vegas. It's the weekend. No. That's the true facts. So, I think, in my opinion, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, called Mormons, they started from Hill Cumorah. Well, Hill Cumorah is a suburb in Brighton, a suburb of Rochester, where I grew up. And Howard Johnson's was an ice cream parlor, the best place to bring a date. This Howard Johnson's ice cream parlor in high school. So I know of Brighton and Hill Cumorah, and I worked with a man that was high in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and every year they'd take a trip to Hill Cumorah. And I got into deep conversations with him while we worked. And he says, this is the way it turned out in the U.S., is why they say we are wrong, illegal. He said, we had said that we looked it up, because when we came west, fighting the Indians, risking, there was started 100 couples, there was 90 men and 95 women. And I said, well, what do we do now? And it's getting towards winter, what do we do with these 5 women. Well, we're going to leave them? And they would die in the winter times early. So they consulted their books. And they came to the conclusion, you are your brother's keeper. So therefore, a brother who died, the living brother would take his wife. And that's what they said is what God, the books say, you are your brother's keeper. He says, but they tell us, no, you can't have 2 wives. Who are they to tell us what our religion is? He says, so if we go to Washington, they're going to vote as to if it's legal or not. Well, in Washington, it's packed. All the balcony, all the newspaper men are there. And then who's in the balcony? All the wives of the senators. And every scoop reporter is waiting there to see if the senators who say to vote you could have more than 1 wife, his wife's in the balcony. He says, so it was unanimous. Not one senator would dare to say you could have more than 1 wife. You understand? He says, so they railroaded it that it's illegal. He says, so they say we live illegal while in Washington they do all kinds of things. And I says, yeah, I know Washington quite well. Because in Washington you have maybe 1 man that got elected, you have this small staff of men and women, and then all the work is done by secretaries, and they're all women. So you have in Washington a situation where you have this man and they work late, and maybe there's 10 girls there, all kind of young, all looking to do something besides working, especially at nighttime or on the weekend, and they need company. You girls have to realize that if you want the big football hero, and there's 10 girls at least, all the girls in this, that want to marry this big football hero, and he picks you, and then you say, oh yeah, that's what I want. Well, then overnight, he can't, especially not look at any of the other girls. Come on, you got to be realistic. It's not Brazil, but the situation keeps getting worse in the U.S. about more girls than women, more girls than men. Because they bring in women from other countries. And they got systems now where you can marry a girl from another country. And then he could be a big power American over her. Cast her aside if he wants to. You have to get a man, especially in religion, that is for lifetime pledges before God and keeps that promise, that obligation. And if he has a second wife, I think it should be legal. Because they're like Brazil. All right, if you don't make it legal, at least, why? It's the right thing to do. So, he looks at another man, oh no, it's divorce. What do you mean divorce? You think of the kids. Cripe, you got to be realistic. Most of the time it's the man's fault. He wants to fool around, and in the U.S. then he divorces and fools around. Why? He was the big football hero. He takes care of you, the kids and you, and if he's got a couple of dollars and is with another girl, is he taking care of the kids and you? You understand? It's not a divorce. It's a forced situation. The way they do it illegally in this country. By necessity, you have where a man maybe, a situation, says, yeah, I got at the time I'm going to give this girl some company. He's not doing anything as far as against the kids and you. That's not mental cruelty, and they use that term as far as then what they can accept in court and you get a divorce. The Mormons are right. You are your brother's keeper. In Brazil, they do it right. Every married man has at least 1 girlfriend. The priests take in girls that would die. They'd bring them in and they help them. What the priest does with these girls is what they may be in necessity to do. And I don't go to church for the priest. I go to church because that's what I go to church is because of Christ. The priest could have intercourse on the altar. Wow, I'm a preacher and I say that? Yeah. He could have intercourse on the altar. I'm going to get up and walk out. No, I'm there because it's my obligation. I don't care what the priest says or does. I'm there to celebrate the Mass, which is based on a miracle of proof, scientifically proven by yours truly. You understand? You go to church because it's your obligation of what Christ commanded. Not because of any priest, what he says or does. And not because what your husband does or especially just says. Is he taking care of the kids and you? Then there's no such thing as divorce in my pure Christian's religion. You sign a binding contract. First come the children, then the wife, then the old man. If he's got any money left, if he does something, hey, as long as he puts the children first, then you, and then last himself, he's doing, and what the Mormons say is he's his brother's keeper. So these are, in my opinion, what the situation really is, what the facts are, my true facts of what I've achieved, world-class achievements, therefore who I really am. And I demand reasonable honors and financial compensation. Well, and I like to start each day with a song. And now I call myself 009. Two better. I've got to a real man, two better than that Brit half-assed, I call 003 and a half, half-assed Brit hoopla. You understand? Well, what song? Oh, let's see. I always think of Connie Francis, and she sings, I think it's Adila. Beautiful voice that girl has. Doris Day hits every note of every song I've ever heard her sing. And I try to boldly harmonize with them. But I try to copy that singer with Anita O'Day, that deep voice, the Everly Brothers, my brother, his real good voice, and then lately Ezio Penza, who sings Some Enchanted Evening, and he rolls the R's. Yeah, if you girls want to hear a real good singer, you listen to Ezio Penza, especially in South Pacific. Some enchanted evening, you will see a stranger, you will see a stranger across the crowded room, and fly to her side, etc. You know, I practiced that, and then I have a little joke. There's this, I think his name was Roberto Morello, and he called himself Robert Merrill of the Metropolitan Opera. And they asked him, you know, you've never missed a performance. Gee, how did you be able to do that? And they used his real name, and now he's an elderly gentleman. And he says, well, when I was young and I was studying, and I was up here, I was getting maybe a little cold, was concerned, and the professor said, look, he says, you take a little garlic. He says, that's what they do in Italy, they use garlic. He says, because garlic, especially where it's cold up here, it prevents you or helps you to not get a cold, and it's good for your voice. He says, really? Yeah. So he says, I would use a little garlic. He says, and seldom have a cold, and I was able to make every performance. And the man says, really? He says, that's great. He says, yeah, well, he says, it's great. He says, but sometimes it wasn't that great. He says, because you know how fussy prima donnas are. And there's this one prima donna that she was always complaining that they wouldn't let her face the audience so much. So I took and was cold, and I wanted to make sure I didn't get a cold and make that performance, so I told her a little extra garlic. And then I thought about it. Well, whether she likes it or not, I got to make this performance. So when I would turn and face her and sing, wow, did she get angry. She practically was going to walk off and cancel the performance. So I told her, look, prima donna, you want the audience to see you. You keep saying when we practice, I want the audience to see me. Because, you know, I had the lead sing, and she had the part of singing with me. He says, let's do this. He says, when I have to turn to face you, which I tried to avoid, you know. He says, as soon as I turn to face you, you turn and face the audience. And then they can see you more. He says, that way she came back on the stage to complete the performance. So I took a little garlic and I rehearsed it. And as I'll try it, I hit every note. And I think I did imitate him and hit the notes on the first try. Beginner's luck. I've never been able to sing it that complete or that good. And I don't know how good I sang it this time, but he has that real good voice. Some enchanted evening, you will see a stranger. You will see a stranger across a crowded room, and fly to her side and make her your own. So maybe I'll take a little garlic. You prima donnas shouldn't complain. You shouldn't be able to, if I face you. And memorize the lyrics and see if I can hit every note. Because I'm determined, I think I sang it good enough, but I didn't hit that last note as good as he does. And so it's past 15 minutes. I really try to like doing it 15 minutes, and certainly in 30 minutes, and I appreciate if I go a time and they put it on. Really appreciate anything anybody allows me to put forward. And to believers, I say, God bless. To non-believers, I say, well, I wish you luck. And to you good people, thank you. And to you beautiful girls, practice safety and have fun.